I want to buy a house with my own money, but girlfriend says no. I, 29 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 25 female, for a little over a year. I don't live with her. She doesn't work because she doesn't want to, and she relies on her parents. Things are mostly okay, but we're hitting a big disagreement that I can't shake. I've been saving aggressively for a while, and I'm finally in a position where I could buy a small house or townhouse on my own. Down payment is fine, mortgage would be in my name, and I'd be fully responsible for it. When I told my girlfriend, she immediately shut it down. She says it's a huge life decision that affects the both of us, and that I shouldn't do it unless we're married or buying together. She also said that it would make her feel like she has no say in our future, and that it puts pressure on her to move in on my terms. From my side, I'm not asking her to pay anything. I'm not forcing her to move in. I see it as a smart financial move and something I've worked hard for. I don't want to keep renting just because I'm in a relationship that may or may not last forever. I also don't like the idea of delaying my goals, waiting for someday. Now it's turned into arguments where she says I'm being selfish and acting single, and I feel like she's trying to control what I do with my own money. I get that it impacts the relationship, but I don't think that means I need permission to buy property I can afford. What do I do? In the comments, Larry Winchester III says, quote, "Things are mostly okay." I don't make big life decisions with someone who I view that way. Might be time to move on. It's only been a year. Yes, if that's the way that OP describes the relationship, kinda tells us everything. Get the house. You can always sell it and move into a different home if the relationship goes somewhere. Good for you for saving for a house. Buy the house. Super weird that she can't be happy for you. OP says, "I'm so excited for buying. I've been waiting for this moment. I'm also weirded out by it as well. She seemed so mad at me. She wants you to wait until you're married so she can have partial claim or something. That's just my guess. Most likely this. I don't know where you live, OP, but in many countries, the standard asset structure for marriages is that you share 50-50 of everything you acquire during the marriage, but each spouse would keep 100% of what they brought into the marriage, like your house, in case of divorce. She maybe wants to claim half your house if you ever get married and then divorced." I agree with that. I think she is waiting to financially trap you like that, because a lot of people do change when it comes to money. It's just they don't often change this early into the relationship, especially before marriage. You kind of want to show your ass after marriage, but in order to trap someone. But I can see that she's putting the cart before the horse here, and maybe that's a warning sign for you to get out of this relationship, in that she's not exactly here for you. It sounds like she's also here for your money and the promise of having half a house secured. Call that acting single all you want, but I think maybe breaking up with her at this point would be the financially responsible move. Because the fact that she doesn't work, she relies on her parents, and now she wants veto power over a decision that she has zero financial stake in, tells me that, there just might be some problems on the horizon if you continue down this path. That's just my assessment of the situation, OP. I think you should buy the house, and if you do stay with her, you get that prenup, and you assess how she reacts to this new information of you buying a house without her being involved. And now, on to the update. I spent a long time reading through the responses and honestly just got overwhelmed. At some point, it hit me that this isn't just about a house. This is a much deeper issue than what I wanted to admit. I didn't sleep at all last night. I kept replaying everything and realizing how foolish I've been in this relationship. Around the middle of the night, I had a full panic attack and ended up driving to my parents' house. I woke them up and told them everything. They didn't even know most of this was going on. They've always seen me as independent and assumed I had things under control, but clearly I didn't. I had to admit some hard truths to myself. I don't really have friends. I was naive, depressed, and had low self-esteem. I met the first woman at a local bar who showed me affection, and I clung to that, thinking that was just how relationships worked. Deep down, the reason I was so unsure about everything is because of her lack of ambition and drive. And I hate admitting this, but I'm also at fault. I tolerated it. I spent money I shouldn't have. I indirectly encouraged behavior that I wasn't okay with. A lot of you basically gave me the wake-up call that I needed. I've never really dated before. I kept my head down, got my computer science degree, landed a high-paying job, and just kept grinding. The cost of that was my social skills and emotional awareness. That pain built up quietly, and whenever it surfaced, my go-to solution was calling her over so it would temporarily go away. That's obviously not a long-term solution. I did try therapy before, but I didn't feel comfortable with my therapist and ended up dropping it. After last night, I realized I need to try again with someone else. I called her in the late morning and asked her to come to my apartment tomorrow for an important discussion. Actually, meeting at a public place like a park might be a better idea. I'll change my plans. I needed today to calm down, collect my thoughts, and stop spiraling. I'm still moving forward with buying my house soon. This whole thing hurts, but I finally feel like I'm choosing myself instead of avoiding discomfort. In the comments, Travel RN with Purse says, OP, I'm so glad for you. It's painful but necessary. Dating someone who doesn't have the same values and goals, or hell, any goals, will never work. Leave this relationship and then work on your relationship with yourself. Become your own best friend, make plans, execute goals, hit the gym, and do some wellness stuff. Dating will come, and you'll meet someone fantastic as you learn to treat yourself with the love that you've been giving someone ungrateful. That girl's parents have failed her and are still failing her. She's an adult now, so she's to blame for her decision. Good decision to move forward and break up with her. In my honest opinion, when you've been together for a year, are not engaged, and don't live together, haven't even made any concrete plans to, you don't actually get a vote, let alone veto rights. You're not there yet. When you add in the bit where she has no income and still lives with her parents, that just underlines it. You are not there yet. If she's 25, has no income and still lives with her parents, barring disabilities, I don't think you want to be there. She doesn't sound like a trust fund baby, so I'm wondering what her plan was for the rest of her life. Find a sucker and latch on? It's insane to me, with the way the world is headed, that anyone would not leap for joy at the thought of someone they love managing to procure a home, especially considering his age. I was reading up on it the other day, but the average age of a first-time homeowner is now in their 40s, I believe. I agree with the commenter who supposed that she was upset because she would have no claim to it. I'm glad he's had a breakthrough, though. Let us remain hopeful that the OP's spine remains as sturdy as it is now when he actually confronts her in order to end their relationship. I hope so too. I just checked and his account was banned, so if there is an update, I can't exactly find it. So with that said, I'm just going to assume there is no further updates to this one, and I'm going to put my intentions out into the world and say, OP, you got this. You got all the comments you could have ever needed on those 2 posts, telling you what you need to do and how you need to do it and why you need to do it. And also thank you for being honest with yourself that you recognize you have your own flaws in this situation. You don't have as many friends or as big a community as you would like. And it is more than okay to say that out loud and to recognize it. And I hope you're giving yourself the kick in the ass to get some hobbies, to get out there more, and to build a community that will support you through times like this, that will help give you different perspectives that people online can't give you. This is a hard update, but I think it's a good one, and I hope everything goes well from here. I hope you don't take her back. I hope you do buy that house, and I hope you don't get stuck with her. Our next post is by user Stone of Forest, and it's titled, "Colleague stole my position, and now I get to watch her struggle worse than I did in it. I'm a teacher at a decently affluent public school. For the most part, I love my job. I've made genuine friends among staff members, and the students make the hard work worth it. There are, of course, the negative parts of teaching that you always hear about. Low pay, grading on off hours, etc., but for the most part, the deal's been good. A few years back, I was recognized by my old boss as a potential leader in the building. He stressed to me that I was very data-oriented and likable among my colleagues. I know my way around Google Sheets and Excel when it comes to collecting and organizing student data, and am really solid with parent communication. I was hesitant, but eventually I agreed and became a leader for a group of teachers and students at the school, in charge of organizing meetings, overall student educational success, etc. That old boss who promoted me left, and I was stuck with a new boss who I didn't know well. Here's where things get messy. I have sensory processing disorder and mild hearing loss. It's hard to explain, but sometimes I genuinely do not hear things correctly. Think if you said, "I'm going to pick up Stacy," I might hear something like, "I'm just gonna wait and see." This happens at least once a day, and usually isn't that big of a deal. Unfortunately, it isn't curable, but I manage. In meetings with my new boss would push strategies that were based around focusing on students whose state test scores were almost passing. The idea was that you would focus on all students, but give extra attention to these guys. These initiatives were never written down, and I would find out later that that was because the legality of such a thing is iffy at best. When these ideas were shared with me, I would constantly ask the boss after the meeting to repeat herself and then check my notes to make sure that I heard her correctly. I noticed at the time that she was passively frustrated that I would do this, even though I explained that I had a hearing disorder. Looking back, I wonder if she felt pressured knowing what we were doing wasn't kosher and if I made a bad impression. Now to introduce the main character of the story, who I'll call Tenny, since she's the coach of the tennis team. Tenny is well liked by staff members for her years of service toward our community in a particular area. I also liked Tenny a lot and figured that she'd be a great team member. Tenny, however, like my boss, became repeatedly frustrated when I would miss things that she would say to me, especially in crowded high school hallways. Sometimes she would even shout something to me as she walked past me. This led to many gaffes and mistakes. I asked her repeatedly to pause and make sure I got what she was saying or just to email me. But nothing changed. There were at least 5 or 6 big moments that my hearing wasn't accommodated for when a simple email could have solved the problem. Just as one example, my new boss came into the hallway to let us know that an assembly location was being changed. We were to take students to a new area, not the old one. Of course, I heard a change, but I didn't hear the location. Tenny was the only one nearby. I tapped my ear, which I usually do to indicate I didn't hear something, and asked her where we were going. Tenny quickly responded and walked away, and I once again didn't understand. Cue me and my students walking into the assembly 5 minutes later after walking them around the building in confusion. My new boss asked what happened, and I told her simply that I didn't hear her correctly. Weeks later, I was called into a meeting with my new boss, and she told me that I was going to lose my leadership position due to inconsistency and disrespect towards colleagues. I asked her which colleagues, and she told me that that was private. I asked her how I was disrespectful, and she said that sometimes you get frustrated when you say you can't hear things and tap your ear. I said that that was the ASL sign for hear, as in I can't hear you. She said that I should have communicated that. I said that I've asked for written communication constantly. She said I shouldn't always expect it. I knew that it was a losing game, and any explanation I would provide would just be shot down. I loved the school and the community, and fighting new boss was only going to lead to more problems. I shouldn't have been surprised when a school-wide email went out that Tenny was getting the leadership position. Tenny was praised by colleagues in reply alls, and it was frustrating to say the least. I know that she was the one who complained, and it was extremely bitter for me to see her rewarded for it. Cue the next school year. Tenny comes into my room and asks me for the student data sheets that I created with Google Sheets. I told her truthfully that even if I did share them with her, that there wasn't anything that she could do with them. I brought her over to my computer and showed her the formulas that I worked with and how I needed to adjust them every time a new student, section, etc. was added to the roster. She then asked me if I could just continue updating these sheets outside of my leadership position. I told her, as professionally as possible, that I would love to teach her how to do all of these things, but I would need a stipend to do so. She asked if any of the other leaders were doing what I did. I said they weren't. I was the only one and always had been. I'm a bit ashamed that I didn't take joy in seeing Tenny's face go cold when she realized I wouldn't fold and there was nothing she could do except cope with hours of data work per year or become proficient with Sheets and Excel. Something I knew she wasn't going to do. And the real kicker, the parents. Parents of students 99% of the time are a joy to work with. I really mean that. It's so fun to work with the parents of the people that I care about the most. But it's the 1% that make your life a living hell. I've overheard Tenny complaining about being on the phone with a 1% parent for 45 minutes, losing her entire grading time. A call like that would have taken me about 5 minutes tops, since I have the experience of knowing how to stop circular arguments and get the parents on my side for an issue. What has taken me minutes is taking Tenny sometimes hours. Yes, she's getting my 1.5k stipend, but I no longer have to deal with extra meetings, extra parent phone calls, miscommunication, etc. She's getting all the pain that I got and more. I feel ashamed that I'm taking so much joy for this, but Tenny made my life hell in a place that I otherwise love. Have fun, Tenny! In the comments, as a former teacher, now disabled, I love all of this for your new boss and Tenny. Why educators are some of the most ableist people I've ever known, I have no idea. Your accommodations aren't a lot to ask for at all, and those two should absolutely know how to deal with a hard-of-hearing person. They can live with the consequences of their choices while you get to have an easier year. OP replies, yes. It's wild to see Tenny and other colleagues bend over backwards for a student with even the most mild of disabilities and then do absolutely nothing for fellow parents. There were multiple times when students of mine were witnesses to Tenny's complete dismissal of me, and I can't even imagine what type of message that sent them. My accommodations are simple work practices as well, and don't require anyone to do anything that wouldn't be totally normal in a work setting. Important things should be in writing, and typical hearing people miss stuff all the time. Honest question, if you have hearing loss, why aren't you getting a hearing aid? Is that an option for you rather than just dealing with it? OP replies, solid question. I think I only mentioned it briefly, but sensory processing disorder isn't like typical hearing loss. It can't be accommodated with hearing aids since it's how your brain processes words rather than just not being able to hear them. It's especially bad with song lyrics. In Taylor Swift's Romeo and Juliet, the lyrics, that you were Romeo, you were throwing pebbles, and my daddy saying stay away from Juliet, I hear as, bleu we're Romeo, you were thrum a bebbin, and my daddy said stay away from Juliet. You can see I get most of the message that Romeo was doing something bad that made Juliet's dad disapprove, but that's about it. Thankfully, my disorder isn't as bad as a lot of people with the condition, but it can be incredibly frustrating when dealing with important issues. I can see why you'd feel bad for her, but at the same time, you really had no choice in the matter. You were kind of put into a rock and a hard place situation, and then punished when you inevitably failed. Tenny just gets to be the lucky recipient of punishment from all the ableism that Tenny and the person above them did. Now she gets to discover why that stipend exists in the first place. You didn't do anything wrong in this instance, so don't feel bad about that. You just refused to do unpaid labor after you got pushed out of your role, and I don't blame you, I don't think anyone would. Also, feeling satisfaction because of this doesn't make you petty at all. You're just human. That's a normal response to have to a situation like this. The best revenge for you is just to lead a normal and happy life from this point onwards and let Tenny suffer. That is the best thing you can do for yourself. And now, onto the update. It's been a semester's worth of school, so I figured that it's time for an update. To say that things have been going well for me has been an understatement. As several comments pointed out in my original post, my 1.5k a year stipend was not worth it. The mental load that left with my leadership position was enormous. I feel so much lighter now, and I've been able to use that time and energy I now have to devote to my community projects. I just feel like I'm overall a better teacher. I haven't taken home work once this semester. On the other hand, Tenny has been miserable. She's always one of the last teachers to go home, even in her coaching off-season, and she frequently cancels or forgets meetings. Unsurprisingly, Tenny has not been considerate of my hearing accommodation, now registered with the district. I keep my own meeting notes and show them to a trusted colleague after to see if I heard everything correctly. I usually get one or two things wrong. Recently, to my surprise, my boss has had a staff-wide meeting where she pushed a shared meeting document and calendar practice among all of the teams. Tenny was visibly frustrated by this, but this is literally what I had been doing as a leader before and just seems to be a standard work practice in general. A trusted colleague told me after I uploaded my original post that Tenny and two other teachers were the ones who complained about my lack of preparation and inconsistencies to my boss. Since then, I have not spoken to those two other teachers unless necessary, but keep very friendly and pretend like I don't know that they threw me under the bus. One of these teachers I'll call Ben. I didn't find it relevant in the original post, but Tenny teaches the same middle school subject I do. English. So does Ben. Anyone familiar with education knows that English is one of the heaviest tested subjects. Our school is ride or die for state test scores, like a lot of schools in the US, so we put a lot of work into making sure the kids get the highest test scores possible. The TLDR is that because I've had extra time and energy, I decided to really focus on exercises and other practices to get these kids scoring as high as I could. Our students get more opportunities in high school if they have higher scores, so it would be a win for everyone if I make it work. I read new strategies and other proven tactics and went hard into it. These efforts all paid off when, at an all-staff meeting, my boss announced that our grade scored higher in English than in previous years. So far, with some of the initial tests, it was a 20% increase from the previous year overall. Wow! But then my boss said something that chilled the room for a microsecond. Be sure to check your students' individual scores to see how you contributed to the increase. Folks, my students were the reason we saw the bump. Tenny's and Ben's scores were slightly lower from the previous year. My boss congratulated me privately, and my job review scores have been the highest of my career. Hilariously, my boss asked if I could share some of my strategies with Tenny and Ben, and I said that of course I would. It's not an uncommon thing to share like this in teaching, FYI, but only shared the documents and nothing else. Tenny and Ben have not approached me to ask how I did it, and I like it that way. My favorite part of all of this? Because of the lack of funds, the leadership position is being eliminated at the start of the next school year, and our teams are being dissolved. Tenny went through all of that drama for just 1 year in the position. I'm trying my best not to relish in the news and just keep my mind focused on my own growth and the 95% of my colleagues who like and enjoy my company. My students are happier, I'm happier. I just got to keep my eyes on the positives and leave this behind me. Thanks to all of you for your kindness and support. And to anyone with a disability, get it in paper with your district so that you don't go through all the pain that I went through. Seriously. In the comments, Subject and Object says, "That school seems like it's full of ADA violations." I was thinking the same thing. It's shocking to me that neither the principal nor Tenny would know that they're required to make accommodation. And as OP said, it's not like what she needed was something onerous. They know, they just don't care. They're probably the type of people that thought OP was faking her disability, or it isn't as bad as she says. Wouldn't surprise me as well, but at this point, unless anyone actually enforces consequences for breaking those ADA guidelines, that actually forces those violations upon the school, then I think that those breaking them are more than happy to continue doing so. But at least with OP getting it documented with the district, I guess you would hope that they do something about it in case OP feels as though they're being targeted by people in the school. And I think it's hilarious that that leadership position is being eliminated. Tenny fought so hard for it just for it to get cut. And I imagine it would have gotten cut had you stayed in for that year extra. It's not hilarious in the fact that it probably is not great for the outcomes of students at the school, but it's hilarious that Tenny goes right back to where she was. But yeah, I guess the takeaway is that you should document your accommodations, set really strict boundaries here, and don't let anyone convince you that your needs are problematic and that you're faking it or anything like what has happened here with OP. OP, it seems like you came out of this on top. You kinda won by the sounds of it, so keep doing you, and thank you for the story. Our next post is by user Shush Movie, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for refusing to finish watching a movie after my sister's boyfriend shushed me?" My sister's boyfriend Derek has been staying at our house since March. It has honestly been one of the worst things about never being able to leave the house. I didn't even meet him before my parents allowed him to stay with us. They met him when they visited her at college. He's really fucking grating. Always thinks he's the smartest person in the room and is honestly just annoying as hell. He is not polite, he never offers to do any chores or dishes or anything, and he's just a complete loser. I don't get what my sister sees in him. Usually, when I would watch something with my mum and dad, we would all kind of make comments about what was happening or whatever, but early on during his stay, Derek said that this was too distracting and that he needed to focus. I vented a bit to my mum about Derek, including his need for dead silence when watching TV, and she said that she understood that it was frustrating, but that we need to make him comfortable as a guest. I was good at this until last night. We were watching Molly's game and I was enjoying it. Maybe an hour in, during a transition from one scene to another, I asked my dad to pause it so that I could go to the bathroom. And immediately after, Derek looks at me, puts his finger over his mouth, and literally loudly shushes me like I'm a 2-year-old for just asking to pause the movie. I got beyond pissed off and was like, fuck this. I'm not watching the movie with him. I just can't fucking do it. Maybe it wasn't exactly like that, but it was something like that, although I don't remember because I was so angry. I didn't personally insult him though. My mum calls me after, but I just go to the bathroom and then my room. My sister texted me that I was behaving like an effing bitch, and I texted her back that her boyfriend was an effing tool. My mum came into my room later and said that she understood why I felt the way I felt, but that I need to apologize to Derek. I said I wouldn't because I don't think I did anything wrong. Anyway, now I'm in bed and dreading facing them, so I probably won't leave my room all day. But I need to know if I'm the asshole here. In the comments, not the asshole. Ages are missing, but you have a right to your views. OP says, I didn't know that I had to include ages. Sorry. I'm 16, and my sister and her boyfriend are both 20. Not the asshole. So let me get this straight. He gets free room and board, doesn't lift a finger to help, is a know-it-all arrogant type, and tells you to shut up in your own home, and you're just supposed to do what he wants and apologize when he's an asshole to you? OP says, exactly. And I really don't understand why my mum is taking his side when I know for a fact that she finds him just as annoying as I do. You should apologize and say, Derek, I'm sorry that you think you have the right to shush me in my own home. I'm sorry that you were never taught the manners to treat others with basic respect. I'm sorry that you were never taught to contribute and are doomed to a life of being a drain on others. Not the asshole. So many people don't seem to understand that respect is a two-way street. Not to mention, when you're living for free in someone else's home, if you're not actually going to be a decent enough person to help around the house, the least you can do is step on as little toes as possible. I'm not sure why he's living with you to begin with, if living at his own place is a possibility. A pandemic isn't the time to find out whether these sorts of living dynamics work if it's avoidable. OP says, when their college closed, my sister refused to come home without him, so my mum let her bring him. I wanted her home at that time too, so I was okay with it, but obviously I didn't know how fucking terrible it would be. The situation isn't going to end until he leaves, because there's no way that I'll ever apologize to anyone. Ivan Itchybum says, how about you just suck it up for your mother's sake? OP says, I sucked it up for 2 months, and I'm done. His mum isn't an essential worker, so it's not like they would be going to some place that's not safe. If they're careful during the stops on the drive, then they'll be fine. But I'm pretty positive that my sister's threats are just threats. And if they're not just threats, that's cool too. Either way, I'm not apologizing. Not the asshole. Derek sucks ass. And why is everyone on his side? Like, how do they not see how unreasonable that was? You didn't do anything wrong. You just like, hey guys, can we pause the movie? I need to piss. And he just treats you like a dog. He's like, shh. Why did no one speak up and go, Derek, what the fuck is wrong with you? Don't you dare talk to her like that. Especially after he's been doing nothing, contributing nothing, and then expecting everyone to just adapt to what he wants the household to be like. Why is no one speaking up about this? What is wrong with your family? And I don't even know if walking away to de-escalate the situation was the best move here. I get it was the healthiest and least confrontational choice you could have made, but if it were me, I'd be starting a fight with everyone being like, this is my goddamn house, Derek. Who are you? Who are you to shush me like that? How about you shush yourself and get out of my house? That's what I'd be saying, but hey, that's just me. He owes you an apology. You don't owe him an apology for anything. He's lost his goddamn mind. And your sister lashing out at you is ridiculous. Maybe she should have some respect for herself and not leashing herself to someone as deplorable as this man. And now, onto the update. I didn't apologize and things got worse. A couple of hours ago, I went to get breakfast and saw Derek in the hallway. I kinda glared at him and he went back into my sister's room. My sister then came out and started yelling at me about how I'm making him uncomfortable. I basically told her everything I said here about him being lazy and rude. My mum and dad heard us yelling and came down, and my sister threatened that she and him would leave to go to his mum's house, which is a long drive away. I told her to leave, and my mum started crying. My dad told us both to shut the fuck up, and now I'm in my room. Great morning so far. I hope she leaves. Update 2. Thanks for all the comments. I appreciate the majority of people saying I'm not the asshole. My sister told my mum, who told me, I know, very mature, that if I don't apologize, they'll leave this weekend. My mum practically begged me to apologize, and my dad told me if I didn't apologize, I would be in big trouble. But I'm not threatened by that at all, because what the hell is he gonna do? Ground me? Lol? I'm never going to apologize. I'm so mad at my parents for falling for my sister's obvious manipulative bullshit. If she wants to leave, she should just fucking do it instead of just threatening to do it. And now, onto the final update. I don't know if anyone will read this, but my sister and Derek left early this morning. Derek and I didn't talk directly since the night that everything started. My sister was like, "Are you really not going to apologize?" And I said that I had nothing to be sorry for, and that obviously it was her choice whether to leave or stay. She said that Derek didn't want to walk on eggshells around me, and I said that was what I was doing for 2 months, so I didn't have much sympathy. She was pissed at that. My mum and dad both tried to guilt me into apologizing. My mum even said that if my sister got sick after leaving, it would be my fault, but again, my sister is choosing to leave. So it can't be my fault. My dad was like, just do it for your mum. And I was like, no. If Derek wants to talk about it, I'm fine with that, but I'm not going to apologize. So they left. Honestly, I'm surprised that my sister actually followed through, because usually she's all talk, but I'm happy with it. My mum was crying all day, and she's not talking to me. I feel bad for her, but I really just couldn't do it anymore. Not really a happy ending, but whatever. In the comments, I know it's way past with the post, but I hope you're doing well. I'm glad you stood your ground, and you were right to say that you would talk things out with Derek only, as he was the source of the tension. Stay strong. Not the asshole. Geez, what a garbage family. Your parents are especially the asshole for showing partial treatment towards your sister. Seriously, your dad telling you to just shut the fuck up, and your mum crying and begging you to apologize to appease your sister and her punk boyfriend? Wow, what great parenting skills they have, especially since your sister hooked up with this guy. I'd say that sooner or later, you could move out as well and reduced contact with them for the time being, especially if your mum isn't even talking to you. I'd like an update as to what happens next should your mum decide to talk to you. Thank God, OP stood her ground and did not apologize to anyone for this. Again, why is everyone looking over the fact that Derek shushed her in front of everyone? That is embarrassing behavior. He was trying to put her down, and everyone else just allowed it to happen. I'm guessing OP's not so much of the golden child in this family, and instead of trying to hide that fact, they're doubling down on the fact that they are playing favorites by showing that they don't actually like the younger daughter. Because if they did like her at all, they would stand up for her and do something about Derek. You kind of want to protect the emotions of those people you like when they're not actually doing anything wrong. What is this don't rock the boat mentality by sacrificing your own well-being? Because say, we enter a different reality and you do apologize to Derek, he then takes that as permission to do even worse in the future. It's just going to escalate from there. Also, Derek never took accountability for his actions. He never said that he did anything wrong here. If he can't even acknowledge that he might have gone a bit too far, then what are we doing? At this point, why am I even surrounding myself with these demons? Because they don't share the same values as me. I would go with what the comments say, and as soon as you can move out and start your own life away from these bad influences, you probably should, OP. Because it sounds like your parents are not on your side. Thank you for the update, and good luck going forward. Anyway guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.